It seems like every time I sit down to make one of these videos, we get just a little bit closer, but it's still taking forever to the launch of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. As of right now, when you guys are watching this, we are only about 4 days away. You're watching this on Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My guess would be come Friday, Scump or Envoy, or there will be some pro out there streaming scrims. I can't wait to see how these teams play maps like Moscow, Hardpoint, and if Satellite is a viable option. Of course, you guys probably remember those maps from the beta if you went through and played it. But in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to take a peek at the bottom 4 teams that I put out when I released my power rankings, my preseason power rankings and predictions video last Monday. And from those 4 teams, I really wanted to look at them and just take a peek and see how could or what is their route to success, right? As of right now, by the way, everything's unsure, right? We don't even know who the roster is for Paris. So some of these teams are completely up in the air. But Paris, as of right now, is almost in the same situation that they were in last year. If you think about coming into that Minnesota launch weekend, everybody had Paris as 12th on their power rankings. Now, granted, they did end up basically finishing the season at not 12th, but they were pretty low. But after the first month or so, the first couple lands, they were shocking everybody. I had them around like my 5th seed, 6th seed, somewhere in there. But at one point in time, about a month into the season, it was them and it was the London Royal Ravens that I had side by side. I was waiting for one of them to pull away, and it just didn't really quite happen throughout the rest of the year. So as we go ahead and take a peek at the teams that I have on the bottom. So when I rank these, I put them as good, better, and best. We already did a video on the 3 teams to the right of this graphic. So Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas, and who I think will be the best out of them, who I give the edge in certain positions and roles, SMG Slayer, flex role, main AR, stuff like that. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But today, I really do want to take a peek at those teams that are on the left and just kind of talk about their path to success. So as we go ahead and look at these teams, I'm going to start at the left. When I rank this is actually in order when I did it last Monday. So as of right now, I'm predicting Paris to be the last, and then LAG, and then London, and then Seattle. So that was kind of my thought process going into this. So if I start with Paris, let's talk about their path to success. So as of right now, they're kind of getting a ton of flack because nobody even really knows what's going on with them, right? I mean, they don't have a roster. They haven't announced a roster. Nothing has been made public. Now, with that said, there is a little bit of speculation that Scraps and Wuskin could be going there. So if Scraps and Wuskin goes there, now all of a sudden, I think you have a pretty good start, right? Especially in 4v4. If you have 2 really super quality, solid players there to start your 4-man roster, I think you could easily take Paris and you could take them and you could put them somewhere in here. Obviously, I don't think they're going to go up here anytime soon, but I don't see why you couldn't put them somewhere in here with these other rosters. It just depends on who at this point in time they're still able to get. Is there anybody out there? I mean, Scraps and Wuskin, but when you start to think about how you're going to formulate and put a team together, do you get temp, or, you know, what's the route that you take if you're trying to put together a team for Paris? So as of right now, I feel pretty confident in just having them towards the left-hand side or the bottom of our power rankings, just because they don't really have a roster. The next team is somebody that's a little bit interesting. So we have this LA Guerrillas squad. So Silly, Apathy, Assault, and Vivid. Those of you that might be competitive COD historians will remember this team from World War II and the incredible things that they were able to achieve back then, which is what gives me a little bit of hope about them. So if you think about LAG, or you think about this year overall, we are going back to a slower game, right? We're going 4v4. The time to kill is much slower. It's almost twice as slow, or it takes twice as long to kill somebody as it did in Modern Warfare. So in a way, this could be successful, right? If I'm thinking of a route to success, I'm thinking what this team was able to do a couple years ago, and will they be able to take that success and apply it to what they're going to be doing this year? Now, obviously, there were a lot of people that weren't even in the league back then, right? You can talk about Simp and Abizi and some of these young guns, Shotzi. So you can think, well, now the rosters are much more stacked. But I think that there is a path to success there. And for me, what I'm going to be looking for is when, because I don't think it's going to be if, when will Mental make his debut? So obviously Mental, the decorated FPS pro coming over from Gears of War. So he's just one of those guys that's talented at every single thing that he plays. I just can't see how he doesn't crack this lineup for me personally. So for them, I think if you substitute in Mental, or if you have some success, some throwback success from what you did back in World War II, I think that's the route for LAG here. After that, London Royal Ravens. So the London Royal Ravens squad of Shawnee, Alex, Dylan, and Zero. Now, for this team, I don't know. There's, at least if you're talking about what they did in Modern Warfare, there's not a ton of bright spots, right? The one that stands out, which is why this was the one player that stuck with that roster and who they stood by throughout the entirety of the offseason, would obviously be Shawnee. So Shawnee had a tremendous end of the year. When it came to champs, he made some incredible plays, which is why he was the one that they held on to. Now, I think that you could easily say, had they have stayed with maybe Shawnee and Alex and then kept Scraps and Wuskin, if that was the case, I would take this team, and I think that they're right in this mix without a doubt. But for whatever reason, they decided to get rid of the twins. I don't know if it was something internally or organizationally. I don't know what the deal was. But for me, Dylan did not have the year that everybody expected. At the end of Black Ops 4, everybody was expecting him to be that next, I don't want to say like Simp or Abizi or Envoy or Shotzi or somebody like that, but he was looking like he was heading to a really good year, and it just didn't quite pan out for him. Same with Alex on Minnesota Rocker. He was a guy that you didn't even really talk about much. When you would watch a Minnesota event, you'd be talking about GodRX at the beginning because he was an MVP candidate to really start the year. Then down towards the end of the year, I was really focused in on what Asim was doing as that route runner. Another pro that doesn't quite have a home yet. We'll see what happens with him. But I don't know. I don't really see the path here. Shawnee would have to turn into beast. This is the thing, all four of these players for me would really have to overperform what they did last year in order to take that next step. And I'm not saying they can't. Obviously, I mean, they're one of the top 48 pros in the world, right? So obviously they can do it. I'll just be interested to see if it comes to fruition. I think that it could happen. Let's just see if it does happen. And then the one team that is a massive question mark for me is the last one in the Seattle Surge. And the reason why is because if we take away really what happened last year, Gunless was top notch. Gunless was a top tier pro any way you look at it. He even played pretty well last year. It's just, he doesn't have people don't like to compliment him on being a teammate by any stretch of the imagination. I'll just kind of put it at that, try to put it nicely. But when it comes to the AR position, Octane's one of the best in the world. No doubt about it. I would put him up against anybody. Do I think he's better than Arcides or, I don't know. I mean, name them. Clayster, Formal. Is he better than those guys? I think it would depend on the day. That's my personal point of view. I think Octane is one of the best in the world at his position. So Gunless could be a super good player. Looney's the one that I'm a little unsure of. In order for this team to have success, he has to play super well. and being away from the competitive scene, even though he has been around it for a long time. We'll see what happens. This is a major question mark. The last time that we saw him, he played pretty well, but will that transfer over to what he's going to be able to potentially do in Black Ops Cold War? It's yet to be seen. And when it comes to Pristini, again, they're going to be relying on Pristini to be essentially an SMG slayer, right? He's going to be playing quickly around the map. That's what he does. He's that entry man type player. Like in a Seam that we just mentioned, like in a Beezy, like an Envoy maybe. So he's that entry type player. But will he be able to pick it up a bit? Because when you look at that Chicago Huntsman roster from last year, I think everybody would kind of agree that he was probably the worst on that team. Not that he was terrible, but in matches where he dropped a 0.65 or a 0.7, they lost, and they lost really close. When he was just serviceable and dropped a 0.9 or a 0.95, they were able to win. Now, when it comes to 4v4, and he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders, you can't just do a 0.8 or a 0.85 or a 0.9. You have got to perform. You have to slay around the map. Will he be able to do that? So for me, he's the biggest question mark, but I think they have an unbelievable AR in Octane. I think Gunless is a top tier pro. What do you get from Looney? And then finally, what does Pristini bring? Is he going to be able to step up and slay at the levels that they need him to do? So in the comments down below, what do you think? Who do you think of these 4 teams is going to be the team that could potentially make a run into that next highest tier? Do you think it'll be Seattle? Do you have hopes for LAG, for Paris, for London? What do you think of those bottom 4 teams? Let me know down in the comments. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I put out a brand new video every single day breaking down and analyzing competitive film from Call of Duty. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like. It helps the channel. Thank you guys so much. We will see you in tomorrow's upload.